Have you ever wondered why some women move through a room as if the air itself parts for them, without a word, without display, yet everything bends quietly toward their gravity? They are not necessarily the most beautiful, nor the loudest. But something within them whispers home. These women, Jung might say, are in conversation with the deepest parts of themselves, their light, their shadows, their forgotten edges. What we call irresistible is not charm, it is integrity made visible. In the language of the soul, a mature woman is one who no longer dances for approval. She has walked through her own underworld, faced her unloved selves, and come back holding them tenderly. That is the magnetism people feel when they meet her. It is not perfume. It is peace. The first habit is invisible, though it reshapes everything she touches. She lives close to her own truth. When she speaks, the voice comes from deep water, not surface ripples. Others might chatter from the shore of borrowed opinions. She dives to where silence births real words. Jung called this the process of individuation, the slow, sacred becoming of one's own pattern instead of an imitation of the crowd. The mature woman has stopped outsourcing her identity to trends, partners, or applause. And yet, paradoxically, by ceasing to perform, she becomes radiant. You can sense it when she answers questions with patience instead of panic, when her laughter isn't strained by who might be watching. Her comfort with herself gives others a strange permission to breathe. Around her, masks loosen. The irresistible power is not dominance, it is resonance. The second quiet habit is her mastery of emotional gravity. She understands her feelings not as enemies to control, but as messengers to interpret. She listens to her anger as an advocate for her boundaries. She welcomes sadness as a reminder of where love once tried to bloom. This self-communication is shadow work in motion, the courage to look at one's pain without disguise. In the tale of her life, she has cried until the salt has carved empathy into her voice. When others confide in her, they don't feel analyzed, they feel seen. Because she has wrestled with her own darkness, she doesn't flinch from anyone else's. That depth of acceptance is mesmerizing in a world addicted to filters and pretense. You can't fake it, it shines through the eyes. So when a mature woman listens to someone's confession or holds a trembling story in her hands, that person senses unconditional regard, not because she offers solutions, but because she understands the architecture of being human. She has studied it from the inside. The third habit blooms from restraint. She carries stillness in a noisy world. While others rush to fill every silence, she lets the pause breathe. In that quiet, the observer in her, what Jung called the self, steers instead of the restless ego. She has learned that the calm in a storm isn't naivete, it's mastery. Her peace is not the denial of chaos, but its domestication. You might see her waiting before reacting to an insult, measuring which voice within her wants to answer, the wounded child or the wise adult. That fraction of a second between stimulus and response is her queendom. There, she exercises freedom. Stoics called it apatheia, freedom from being enslaved by emotions. She calls it sanity. People mistake the stillness for fragility, until they realize it is unshakable. This composure is magnetic because it's rare. While the world chases distraction, the mature woman cultivates presence. Time bends differently around her. The impatient grow calm, the anxious slow their breath. She is not manipulating energy, she has simply stopped leaking it. And from this inner stability arises the fourth habit, she speaks the language of boundaries without bitterness. Once upon a time, perhaps, she confused kindness with compliance. Maybe she said yes to avoid abandonment, offered her empathy to those who hadn't earned it, and learned from the ache that followed. Now she understands that saying no isn't hostility, it's architecture. It builds the container in which love can thrive. When she sets a boundary, it's rarely loud. There's no lecture, no rebellion, simply clarity. This is where I end and you begin. That quiet certainty is what fascinates others, it's the elegance of someone who needs nothing proved. She forgives, but does not re-enter chaos. She helps, but without martyrdom. Her yes means something precisely because it can become a no. To the ungrounded, her detachment may feel intimidating, to the awakened, it feels safe. And safety, when offered by someone who radiates purpose, is the most seductive feeling on earth. From this self-respect unfolds another habit, subtle and radiant: she cultivates play. Maturity does not make her rigid, it frees her from embarrassment. Jung knew that the soul longs to dance between shadow and light, to remain flexible enough to create. Having explored her inner darkness, she now has room for childlike joy without shame. She laughs often, but not to please, she laughs because she has survived. Watch her when music plays, how easily she glides, surrendered to rhythm without calculation. There's no audience, only aliveness. That uninhibited spirit draws people near, it speaks of trust in life itself. In her presence, others remember what spontaneity feels like before fear edited everything. Playfulness is not immaturity, it is confidence wearing simplicity's costume. Only those who have met sorrow can play without cruelty. She does not tease to wound, she jokes to connect. The mature woman shows that depth and lightness are not enemies, they are dance partners. The final habit, the axis around which all others turn, is self-sourcing worth. Every day, the world seduces women into forgetting their inherent value, measuring themselves by desirability, productivity, or approval. But the mature woman has dismantled the altar of external validation. Through heartbreak, rejection, and solitude, she learned that no compliment can adjudicate her existence. Her worth was birthright, not reward. She no longer hunts for reflection in another's gaze, she builds mirrors inside herself. Her self-regard is an ecosystem, fed by gratitude, solitude, and creation. That's why, when she walks into a room, she doesn't seek permission to exist, she bestows presence. People sense it like sunlight after rain, a warmth that asks nothing but awakens everything. This autonomy doesn't isolate her, it amplifies her capacity to love freely. Because she doesn't need love for survival, she can give it as a gift, not a transaction. That's what irresistibility truly means, the liberation of giving affection without hidden hunger. Imagine now, the arc of a woman's becoming through Jung's lens. Her psyche is a garden where archetypes bloom: the mother, the huntress, the sage, the lover, the creator. Each has its season. In youth, perhaps the lover reigned, eager, burning for recognition. Later, the sage whispering analysis took over, building order from pain. Maturity is when they stop fighting inside her, when she invites them all to the same table. There, around her inner fire, sits every part she once rejected. The critical voice takes a sip of humility, the frightened child rests her head on the warrior's shoulder, the caretaker finally breathes. Integration, not perfection, creates power. The cracks she once despised now glow with gold from lessons learned. She understands that being irresistible is not about escape from flaws, it is about intimacy with them. The perfection of the surface is brittle, the perfection of authenticity is pliant. She has become a mosaic of everything she survived, and that composition draws people in more than any symmetry ever could. Many try to mimic this by imitating her posture, her tone, her words, but imitation lacks spirit. The true source lies in her inner dialogue. Each morning, she recommits to truth. Each disappointment, she meets with inquiry instead of dramatization: what part of me needed this encounter to awaken? That question turns pain into wisdom. Slowly, she stops reacting to the world as a battlefield and begins treating it as a mirror. Projection, the Jungian ghost that haunts all relationships, becomes her teacher. When she feels triggered, she asks, "What old wound is this touching?" In that moment, awareness loosens the grip of fate. The pattern breaks. The spell ends. It's not witchcraft. It's consciousness. And consciousness is magnetism. People sense it even if they can't define it. The mature woman who does this work becomes a lighthouse to those lost in emotional fog. Her very being emits orientation: here is what wholeness looks like, here is how peace breathes. Her self-command does not mean self-isolation. Paradoxically, her independence fuels deeper intimacy. Because she no longer fears loss, her love feels safer. Partners sense they are wanted, not owned. Friends trust that affection is not conditional on performance. The child, the lover, the stranger, all are met with eyes that say, "You are free," and freedom is contagious. That contagion, in the alchemy of Jungian thought, is the transference of individuation. When one person integrates shadow, others feel permission to do the same. Thus she doesn't just attract, she awakens attraction in others, to themselves. Sometimes she sits alone at dusk, the world humming beyond her windows. In that dusky gold, she reconciles the opposites, serenity and desire, order and mystery, the mundane and the sacred. Maturity, she knows, is not the absence of chaos but the ability to dance with it in grace. She doesn't chase certainty, she befriends paradox. There is a quiet smile as she sips her tea, because she knows that to be irresistible is to be ungraspable. The moment someone tries to possess such presence, it dissolves. She belongs to no one, not even to the person she was yesterday. From this philosophy arises a life unpressured by performance. Every gesture becomes intentional, every relationship reciprocal, every ending a teacher. Even heartbreak, handled consciously, becomes a kind of initiation, a proof that love was real enough to hurt and wise enough to end. You might wonder, listening to this, how to reach that state yourself. The path is less about adding new habits and more about unlearning false ones. Stop apologizing for existing. Stop racing ahead of your own breath. Sit with the silence until it introduces you to the parts you hide. Befriend your contradictions. That's where the metamorphosis begins, not in cosmetic rituals, but in the radical act of self-presence. In that stillness, you begin hearing the small, calm voice beneath performance, the one that says, "I am already enough." Answer that voice, and life rearranges itself around the new frequency. Every conversation becomes more authentic. Every choice, simpler. Beauty stops being decoration and becomes expression. The irresistible woman emerges naturally, not through effort, but through alignment. Others will sense it even when she says nothing. The posture of someone who knows her worth is unmistakable. She doesn't step on toes, she paces in harmony with her values. Her kindness has boundaries, her ambition has roots, her affection has discernment. She is both garden and gate. And when storms come, and they will, she doesn't shatter, she flexes. Her resilience is not armor but elasticity. People drawn to her are not intoxicated by fantasy but comforted by reality. She is proof that wholeness is possible. On the stage of humanity, she is the embodiment of Jung's greatest insight, that the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Once that happens, everything else, approval, attraction, even destiny, becomes secondary. She lives not as an object of desire but as a subject of creation. Through her, others remember that maturity is not stiffness, it is softness fortified by truth. The ripened fruit doesn't strive, it simply ripens. The irresistible woman doesn't chase allure, she becomes it by resting in authenticity. If one were to follow her through an ordinary day, nothing might seem extraordinary. She buys flowers for herself. She pauses to feel sunlight on her skin. She speaks to the cashier with full attention. Yet in those small acts lies the secret, reverence. Life responds to her devotion with synchronicities and quiet miracles. People feel lucky to cross her path, not because of status, but because she glows with coherence. That glow can't be taught, it is cultivated through persistence in self-honesty. Every time she forgives wisely, every time she honors a boundary without cruelty. Every time she chooses curiosity over judgment, the glow grows. It is psychological beauty, not cosmetic, a radiance earned through integration. And so it continues, the mature woman wakes, not to perform, but to participate. She belongs to herself, yet she's generous with presence. Nothing forced, nothing begged. Her magnetism is a natural consequence of alignment between soul and action. Irresistibility, therefore, is not a behavior, it is a state of being. Anyone who chooses that honesty can become such a presence. Age, wealth, appearance, none define it. It is born in the decision to face your shadow and still choose tenderness. When Carl Jung wrote of individuation, he imagined exactly this culmination, a person who has made the unconscious conscious. Who acts from choice instead of compulsion, who finds divinity not in perfection but in wholeness. The mature woman, living that truth, is irresistible because she's real in a world addicted to performance. She loves without losing herself. She grieves without collapsing. She nurtures without depleting. Her power is steady flame, not wildfire, and in its light, others find clarity. As night gathers again, she finally rests, not in exhaustion, but in quiet claim of her own life. She no longer measures her worth in mirrors or messages, no longer auditions for affection. She knows that every phase of her being, youth, mistakes, forgiveness, joy, is holy. There is nothing to prove. This is the alchemy of a mature woman who has walked through her shadow and returned luminous. This is why she is irresistible, she is whole, and wholeness is magnetic. The world cannot help but turn toward its own reflection in her. And when dawn comes, she opens her eyes like someone who never forgot that the simple act of being alive is already enough. She is free, radiantly, quietly, irrevocably free.